The greatest danger in life is not death. It is seeing too clearly. The moment you realize that money is only paper, that titles are only words, that success is only theater, you step outside the illusion that holds the world together. And once you see, you can never unsee. The Stoics warned us about this long before modern philosophy caught up. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, reminded himself each morning that fame, wealth, and power were nothing more than shadows, fleeting, fragile, and easily lost. Seneca wrote that most people chase after illusions, mistaking them for truth, and in doing so, waste the only thing that truly belongs to them: time. This is the paradox. To see through the illusions of society is a form of liberation, but it is also a kind of exile. Because when you refuse to take the game seriously, you threaten those still playing by the rules. You laugh while others are still pretending, and in their eyes, your laughter makes you dangerous. Think about how children behave over a simple board game. They scream about cheating, they cry when they lose, they gloat when they win, as if cardboard and plastic defined their destiny. But to the adult watching, it's all play. That's how the Stoic sees life. What others call victory or defeat is no more real than pieces on a board. And here lies the challenge. When you pierce through illusion, you cannot always share what you see. People don't thank you for spoiling the game. They resist, they fight back. They call you foolish or detached. This is why the Stoic path demands more than insight. It demands discipline. Epictetus taught that the real question of life is not whether the world understands you, but whether you understand yourself. The wise person doesn't need validation because truth does not depend on agreement. What matters is how you carry your vision, with bitterness or with grace. The Stoic does not withdraw from life. He plays every role: worker, lover, parent, friend, but with the awareness that all of it is temporary. He knows the stage will one day close, and so he performs not out of desperation, but out of dignity. This is the essence of Stoicism: to live fully, yet lightly, to act in the world without being enslaved by it. To see what others don't is to walk a dangerous road, but the Stoics embraced it as the only road worth walking. They knew that illusion may comfort the crowd, but truth strengthens the individual. Take Marcus Aurelius. Imagine being emperor of Rome, the most powerful man on earth, surrounded by wealth, soldiers, and endless flattery. For most, that would be the ultimate dream. But Marcus saw the illusion behind it. In his private journals, he reminded himself that the purple robes of the emperor were just dyed wool, that the statues carved in his honor would crumble, and that even the greatest names in history are eventually forgotten. He lived with the burden of vision. He played the game of empire, but he never let it own him. To the people, he was Caesar. To himself, he was a man, soon to be dust. Or think of Epictetus. He began life as a slave, beaten and owned by another human being. And yet, he discovered a freedom most masters never touched. Epictetus taught that chains on the body cannot imprison the mind. He saw through the illusion that power belongs to the oppressor. True power, he said, is knowing what is within your control and what is not. No tyrant could reach into his inner reason. That vision was dangerous. His master feared him, not because of rebellion, but because of independence of thought. And that is the kind of freedom society struggles to tolerate. Then there is Seneca, a man of wealth, influence, and letters, tutor to an emperor surrounded by luxury. But he too pierced the veil. He wrote that riches were not possessions, but debts. They chain us with invisible threads, making us slaves to what we think we own. He understood that fortune could vanish in a single stroke of fate, and so he practiced poverty deliberately, sleeping on the floor, eating the simplest meals. Not because he had to, but because he refused to be hypnotized by the illusion of security. What unites these three men is not just philosophy, but practice. They didn't simply argue that the world is an illusion. They lived as though it were. Marcus Aurelius led armies but reminded himself that victory and defeat are both swallowed by time. Epictetus owned nothing but mastered everything that mattered. Seneca enjoyed privilege but trained himself to let it go. And here is where Stoicism differs from cynicism. The Stoic doesn't laugh at life with contempt, but with compassion. They know people cling to illusions because they are afraid. Afraid of loss, afraid of meaninglessness, afraid of death. And so the Stoic walks carefully, not mocking the dreamers, but embodying another way of living, free, calm, unshaken. Still, make no mistake, to see what others don't will make you an outsider. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The man who follows reason is like a soldier alone in the ranks, marked out, different from the rest." Epictetus warned his students that people would ridicule them for living simply, and Seneca admitted that the crowd despises what it cannot understand. So why persist? Why not return to the comfort of the illusion? Because, as the Stoics knew, the cost of seeing is heavy, but the cost of blindness is heavier still. To live enslaved by false values, to spend your life chasing shadows is the real tragedy. Better to stand apart with clarity than to belong with delusion. But here's the truth almost no one dares to face. There is no liberation without confrontation. What chains us are not only the external walls of society, but the inner walls we build ourselves. Beliefs, fears, behaviors we repeat as if hypnotized. Modern life fuels this invisible prison, feeding us mass distractions, instant dopamine, and a menu of illusions that seem to satisfy but quietly weaken us. Think about it. How many times have you chased something you believed was the pinnacle of happiness, a possession, a promotion, someone's approval, and when you finally achieved it, the satisfaction dissolved within days? That isn't coincidence. It's proof that real freedom isn't found in things, but in the way you relate to them. And here's the real shock. Most people live their entire lives without ever realizing this. They exist as slaves to goals they never chose, consuming dreams, manufactured by others, only to arrive at the end and whisper, "Was that all?" Now pay attention, because this is the turning point. Liberation begins the moment you understand that you don't need to be fueled by the same engine that drives the crowd. You can choose, you can question, you can detach. And when detachment happens, not as an escape but as clarity, you begin to taste the raw flavor of freedom. Detachment is not about abandoning life, it's about refusing to let life own you. And here lies the paradox. The moment you stop clinging, you actually start living. Because what most people call living is nothing but constant bargaining with fear. Fear of losing status, fear of being rejected, fear of not being enough. And when fear rules you, you are not living. You are negotiating with a prison guard inside your own head. Look at the crowd. They run in circles, sprinting toward goals that were implanted in them since childhood. Get this, achieve that, prove yourself. And the cruel irony, even when they achieve it, the void remains. Why? Because their victory was never theirs. It belonged to the system, to someone else's blueprint. But you, if you are listening now, if something in you is awake, you don't have to follow that script. The world doesn't need another copy. It needs someone brave enough to live by their own rhythm. And that bravery begins with mastery of the self. Self-mastery is not about crushing weakness. It's about understanding it. It's about seeing the temptation to conform and choosing differently. It's about recognizing the desire for approval and refusing to kneel before it. When you master yourself, the crowd loses its grip on you. The noise of the world fades, and for the first time, you hear your own voice. Clear, unshaken, undeniable. And that voice? It's the compass of your liberation. The cost of conformity is subtle, yet lethal. Most people never notice it because it comes dressed in comfort. It whispers, follow the rules, blend in, don't rock the boat. And day by day, it steals pieces of your potential. Dreams fade, courage withers, and life becomes a gray routine, a theater of mediocrity where no one dares to see beyond the script. But the one who sees differently is never truly alone. Every Stoic knew this truth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed." Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters." The wisdom here is simple. You cannot control the crowd, but you can control yourself. And that is the power hidden in the solitude of vision. To live like this is not easy. It demands vigilance. You must recognize when society's illusions are pulling at you, enticing you with false rewards. You must remember that the applause of the crowd is not your currency. The only approval that matters is your own, measured by reason, virtue, and integrity. And yes, this path can be lonely. Friends may drift away, loved ones may, Misunderstand. The world may mock you for seeing what others refuse to see, but solitude is the companion of clarity, and clarity is the mother of freedom. Here is the paradox. Those who see what others cannot often appear dangerous, even mad at first. Yet in time, history honors them. The philosopher becomes the guide. The rebel becomes the visionary. The outsider becomes the beacon. Your awareness is not a curse, it is a gift, but it must be carried wisely. So, what can you do starting today? First, pause before you react. Observe the currents of society, notice the illusions, and choose whether they serve your life or enslave it. Second, master yourself. Train your mind, your desires, and your impulses as if your freedom depends on it, because it does. Third, play the game with awareness. Participate fully, love deeply, create passionately, but do so without confusion, without attachment to outcomes. You are free, not because the world has changed, but because you have changed. You no longer chase shadows. You no longer surrender your life to illusions. And in this freedom lies joy, peace, and the quiet thrill of truly seeing what others do not. If you feel this message, if it resonates deep in your soul, take action. Subscribe now to this channel for more insights that awaken the mind. Like this video to show the world that you choose clarity over conformity. Share it with someone who needs to remember that life is theirs to master, not theirs to follow blindly. Remember, seeing what others cannot is dangerous, but so is living half awake. Choose freedom. Choose clarity. Choose to live intentionally.